All right, let's get straight into it. Welcome to this elite strategic briefing on the evolving Indo-Japan relationship. We are completely bypassing the fluff today to focus purely on the macro strategic shifts, the institutional mechanisms, and the bilateral frameworks that you absolutely need for high-pressure exam recall. If you want to really understand the geopolitical tectonic plates shifting right now in the Indo-Pacific, you are in exactly the right place. Here's our roadmap. We're mapping this out across 6 highly concentrated blocks. Number 1, Japan's grand strategic shift. 2, Indo-Japan strategic convergence. 3, evolving defense and security. 4, geoeconomics and the Indo-Pacific. 5, the 2025 summit. And 6, we'll wrap up with a rock-solid mains exam answer framework.
Starting with Section 1, Japan's grand strategic shift. We're looking at the shedding of pacifism here.
Okay, you need to burn this chronological evolution into your memory. For decades, Japan was essentially a U.S. protectorate, strictly bound by Article 9 of its constitution. But just look at this progression. They established a global partnership with India back in 2000. They upgraded it to a strategic and global partnership in 2006, and it all culminated in the absolute landmark 2022 National Security Strategy. So why the sudden change? Well, Japan isn't just shifting gears in a vacuum. The root causes driving this radical shift are purely external and systemic. They're actively responding to aggressive territorial posturing by China, that tightening military bond we're seeing between China and Russia, a highly volatile North Korea, and, frankly, the lingering realization that Japan has to take responsibility for its own regional order. They simply can't rely solely on the U.S. security umbrella forever. For 60 years, think about that, 6 decades, Japan had a strict historical ceiling on its defense expenditure. That unofficial cap was just 1% of its GDP. It was literally the hallmark of their post-war pacifist stance. But then, boom, the 2022 strategy established a fundamental paradigm shift. Japan completely shattered that old ceiling, committing to double its defense budget target to 2% of GDP over a 5-year period. This single decision fundamentally alters the entire security calculus of East Asia. So what does that 2% actually look like? It translates to a massive capital injection. We're talking about the 2025 defense budget jumping by 9.4% to a record of $55.1 billion. They are leveraging this capital to rapidly build a modern military-industrial complex and develop serious long-range counterstrike capabilities. All right, moving right along to Section 2. Indo-Japan strategic convergence, and specifically how these two nations are managing China. Now, if we just look impartially at the cold, hard geopolitical facts, you've got this fascinating dual-track reality going on. On the left side here, the economic reality. Both New Delhi and Tokyo maintain massive trade volumes with Beijing. China is Japan's absolute top trading partner at $293 billion, and it's India's largest at $139 billion. But look at the right side, the strategic reality. Both nations are actively pushing back against unilateral changes to the status quo. For Japan, that's China's maritime expansion in the East China Sea. For India, it's those aggressive border incursions in Galwan. Which brings us to Section 3, evolving defense and security. Let's look at the actual military frameworks. Okay, grab your pens because here is a crucial piece of exam vocabulary you absolutely need. ACSA, or the Acquisition and Cross-Servicing Agreement. Signed back in 2020, this provides the critical reciprocal logistical support needed for extended military operations across the Indo-Pacific. It essentially allows Indian and Japanese armed forces to seamlessly exchange supplies and services. But it's not just about logistics, right? Japan is aggressively, and I mean aggressively, upgrading its strategic hardware. They are building counterstrike capabilities by acquiring 400 Tomahawk missiles. They're co-developing a 6th-generation stealth fighter in the Global Combat Air Program alongside the UK and Italy. They have even eased their long-standing bans on exporting lethal weapons and are setting up a joint operations command with the US. They are shifting definitively from a purely defensive posture right into joint deterrence. Let's pivot now to Section 4, Geoeconomics and the Indo-Pacific, focusing heavily on supply chains. Enter Prime Minister Kishida's 2023 FOIP, the new free and open Indo-Pacific policy. We're talking about a massive $75 billion investment pledge here. This framework is fundamentally designed to counter economic coercion. It's all about maintaining a rules-based order, defending freedom of navigation, and building multi-layered connectivity. The goal? Making sure nations in the region don't have to rely on just one single country for their critical supply chains. Now, notice how we constantly need to connect these dots for your answers.
The Act East Forum, set up in 2017, perfectly bridges Japan's FOIP strategy directly into India's domestic economic integration. It brilliantly aligns both nations' visions to develop critical infrastructure, which is heavily funded by Japan's Chika, right in India's strategically vital northeastern region.
Moving on to Section 5, the 2025 Summit and the Future, focusing on PM Modi's pivotal visit to Japan.
That August 2025 summit was a massive catalyst. Just visually map this sequence in your head real quick. First, they upgraded the legacy 2008 Joint Declaration on Security Cooperation. Then they adopted a comprehensive 8-pillar vision for the next decade. And crucially, they launched highly targeted supply chain initiatives focusing specifically on semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and critical minerals to plug those vulnerabilities to economic coercion. I need you to highlight this exact policy term in your notes right now: Unicorn Masts. This represents an unprecedented milestone. It is literally the absolute first case of advanced defense equipment co-production between the two nations. It links India's Bharat Electronics Limited directly with Japanese defense firms to build advanced naval radar systems, a real game changer.
Finally, Section 6, the mains exam answer framework, where we'll use active recall to lock this all in. All right, let's test your attention right now. Think back to our earlier discussion on maritime security and information fusion. Can you pinpoint the specific location of India's 2 centers dedicated to maritime domain awareness? Got it? The answer is Gurugram, Haryana. This is a super important geographic and institutional detail to drop when you are writing about joint efforts in the Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Domain Awareness. Okay, second rapid-fire question. Under its 2022 National Security Strategy, what specific numerical target did Japan set to shatter its historical defense cap?
Yup, exactly 2% of its GDP. You have to repeat this metric in your answers because it is the hard, quantitative proof cementing Japan's transition into a normal, geopolitically active military power.
And here is your golden 250-word answer structure. Take a mental snapshot of this. Start your intro with the timeline, from 2000 up to the 2025 Joint Vision. Your defense paragraph must drop heavy-hitting keywords like ACSA and Unicorn Masts. Your geoeconomics paragraph has to link FOIP, the Act East Forum, and semiconductor supply chains. And finally, you conclude with the ultimate geopolitical reality. A robust, remilitarized Japan directly serves India's objective of maintaining a balanced, multipolar Asia. Master this exact structure, and you've mastered the topic. But I want to leave you with a provocative thought as you revise today. If U.S. security guarantees in the Indo-Pacific were to suddenly disappear tomorrow, is Japan's 2% defense budget truly enough to contain a simultaneous dual-front threat from China and Russia? Keep analyzing that, and I'll see you in the next briefing.